Hey there, fellow netizens. This is Kevin in the editor's chair with just a brief note for this month's episode. As you'll see from the runtime, this episode went a little longer than usual. Hence the reason I put another episode on coverage of the Real Game Awards last time. As a result of that, there's only going to be one episode this month. And while I got you here, a little tip of the hat to Jay Branstetter and Winslow Domain over at the podcast I'm From the Internet, who just did a set of episodes on Scandal Game's favorite, Jack Thompson's modest video game proposal. So if you want to check out some more stuff about our old buddy, Mr. Jack Thompson, I encourage you to check that out. I will put a link in the description. And thanks to Jay for the recent shout out on his show. So without further ado, let's get to the episode.
Dear Mr. Rockefeller, you up. Stop.
Hello, fellow netizens, and welcome to Scandalous Games, the show where we take a closer look at video game-related controversies. I'm Kevin Impellizeri, and I do the research and share a story of a video game-related controversy to my friends.
Hey, I'm Phil, and you might as well consider me a video game newbie.
And I'm Kate. I've been writing software for over 10 years, but not the fun kind.
And we are back for the second part of what I've been calling 2025, a year in controversies, going through some of the things that I kept track of during the previous year that I thought would be fun or interesting topics. So last time we talked about GameStop declaring the end of the console wars and having an exchange over this alleged accomplishment between them and the actual Trump administration. So just to see where we are, and we're going to kind of not stray too far from that theme to our topic today, because today I've got a couple of ideas for titles on this one. So I'm just going to rattle off some of them. One is Elon Musk versus reality, and the other is Elon Musk is a bad poopy pants gamer that sucks and his butt smells.
How do you know that?
I guess you're right. I guess I don't know that.
I'm sure he's had one of those rich people organ transplants that makes all of their poop smell like roses.
Yeah.
So, what do you all know about Elon Musk?
It's a really open-ended question, Kevin. What specifically would you like us to comment on?
I'm so mad at the world that I need to know about this loser. That's all I gotta say.
I can mention something. I have a friend about 20, 25 years ago who bumped into him at a party, or he was at a party in California and he was meeting a bunch of tech people and he bumped into some guy and this guy was awful to talk to. Like he was like really awkward and he just kept going on about batteries. This guy would just not stop talking about batteries. Oh my God. So he found an excuse to go talk to somebody else at the party. And then decades later, he realized the person he had been talking to was Elon Musk.
Yes, they have it's fascinating. They have these AA batteries and they have AAA batteries and they have C batteries and they have D batteries, but why do they not have B batteries? I find that confounding. I don't do a very good Elon Musk impression.
I think you need a little bit more James Woods in there, like a little bit more like stuttering that the person doing the stuttering thinks is charming, but is really not.
Saw one Hugh Grant movie and misunderstood.
Yes, I think that probably might, yeah, if I were to guess, I would probably, get help there.
All right. Well, what I was looking for is the troll who projected the scroll onto Twitter's San Francisco headquarters after Elon Musk took over. I'm just going to read what they said. So it's Elon Musk, colon, and then just like a scroll of various names. Bankruptcy baby, supreme parasite, petulant pimple, apartheid profiteer, dictator's ass kisser, lawless oligarch, insecure colonizer, cruel hoarder, space Karen, mediocre manchild, pressurized privilege, petty racist, megalomaniac, worthless billionaire, bankruptcy baby. Okay, I think that repeats.
So yeah, we're going to be talking a little bit about Elon Musk today, but we are going to limit it. There's a lot that has been said, a lot of that's been written about Elon Musk, and I'm going to keep it within our specific wheelhouse of video games and video game related controversies, because there were a set of game controversies surrounding Elon that came up last year that I think will be fun to talk about. So today we're going to dive into the gaming controversies of Elon Musk. So yeah, on top of, running several tech companies of, to be generous, varying levels of success, buying Twitter for well over its market value for lulz, and leading a pseudo-legal government department he named after an internet meme, did you all know that Elon Musk is a top-level gamer?
I did not.
Oh, how does he find the time?
That's a very, very good question. One that has come up more than a few times is how could he be an epic gamer and do all the things he claims he does? So yeah, what's interesting about Elon Musk is he likes to brag that he has been an elite video game player dating all the way back to the 1990s, when he was, in his words, quote, semi-pro good at Quake, end quote. There are numerous podcasts he's come on. For example, on the Joe Rogan Experience in 2024, I believe it was in November, he talked about being a high-level Quake player in the 90s. During numerous interviews, he has bragged that he and his clan, made of coworkers from his company Zip2, participated in the first paid esports tournament in the US, claiming he placed second and earning several $1,000s in prize money. Elon also recalled that his team was in first place. They were going to win, only to lose when one of their teammates' computer crashed, which is, in my opinion, like saying you lost because your controller was broken.
That's what kept me from setting all of the records in all of the other video games, too.
But yeah, so Elon Musk, he says that he was this semi-pro Quake player, that he played in the first American tournament, that he got second place, that he should have had first if it weren't for technical issues, and thus brings the very first installment of a running activity we're going to do through this episode, which I'm calling Elon Musk versus reality. With all that in mind, how much of this claim do you think is true?
I think by default, just because he's a very successful person, I might make the mistake of assuming he's right, because why would somebody, who has so much visibility lie about something that would be easy to fact check? That would be my first assumption.
Lot of famous people lie about easily disproven things and just stick to their guns lately. I would have agreed with you maybe 10 years ago, Phil, but I think it's a lie. It just doesn't seem feasible. I can understand why you would want people to believe this about you. And, Elon Musk is nothing if not a person who wants people to like him. And this is a different demographic where people might like him because he's good at games.
Yeah, so the answer to this one is kinda, sorta, no. So for this part, I am indebted to gaming YouTuber and known investigator of cheaters, Carl Jobst, who does a lot of really cool videos on cheating scandals in video games, in the speedrunning community, in the competitive community. He does a lot of work into this. And back on February the 28th, 2025, he published a video on Elon Musk's alleged tournament win and did a lot of deep investigating about this claim. And he did extensive research, including poring through old message board posts and Quake news sites. He also interviewed actual documented Quake champions. For example, he interviewed Dennis Fong, whose handle is Thresh. Dennis Fong won what is generally recognized as the first major Quake tournament, which is the 1997 Red Annihilation tournament. He very famously won John Carmack's Ferrari in it.
Wow.
Oh, and I have a couple of bags of candy in the glove compartment. I just need to clear out before you have it.
I got the Twisted Sister tape in the glove box.
I just bought myself a bunch of Rolos, and there's a couple new bags of Kleenex, or packets of Kleenex in there.
Probably could get me and Kevin to fight to the death for a packet of Rolos. I'm not going to lie.
So it was a Ferrari 328. I wanted to make sure I got the car right. Yeah, John Carmack's Ferrari he gave to Dennis Fong after he won the Red Annihilation tournament in 1997. And generally that's considered in the Quake community the first tournament. Elon is claiming that he was in one earlier than that. So Jobs, he digs into this a bit. And Jobs initially struggled to find a tournament that matched Elon Musk's description, as the alleged competition didn't appear to line up with any community-recognized Quake events. However, he came across a few posts from players who claimed that they were part of the team that beat Musk's clan. And for those who don't know, clans are your Quake group. Quake teams are called clans. And this eventually led Jobs to track down the Letter to Cthon Quake tournament, which was hosted by the online platform MPlayer in 1997, which was before Red Annihilation. I believe it's before Red Annihilation, which awarded $700 $450 to the clan that won second place. And I don't know, I wasn't a math major, but that sounds far from the thousands of dollars Musk claims. The tournament was also not a notable one in the Quake community at the time. What MPlayer did is they were kind of a middleman service between the player and the server, which high-level players didn't like using because it resulted in high latency. So like that, the timing between when your button inputs happen when they happen on the screen. It was more common in those days for tournaments to be LAN because you could control the latency. And everyone's dealing with the same capabilities. So MPlayer was not really very popular among competitive Quake players. On top of that, there's not really a lot of evidence that they got a lot of high-level players, even if they were aware of it. Jobs found that the announcement of the tournament and the tournament's date was very, very short. So even if you knew about this, there would have been not a lot of a big window to actually be part of this. It led him basically to think that this was a publicity stunt by MPlayer, that it wasn't really a serious tournament. Another thing about MPlayer is it couldn't differentiate between the quality of internet connections, meaning that players with better internet connections, such as like broadband over dial-up, had a built-in advantage over players who didn't. Again, that's one of the reasons why people would do LAN tournaments, is because it makes it so that everybody's working with the same connection. This led Jobs to conclude that if Musk's clan did in fact take second place, a large part of their success could be attributed to them simply having better internet access than many of their opponents, regardless of their playing skills, which, effectively saying that Musk, not unlike today, had the advantage of being a spoiled little rich boy with access to the best toys. And on top of that, it's due to the fact that no high-level players at the time participated, and to hear Elon tell it the outcome was determined by network issues rather than skill, which is something that they would not do at a serious tournament, because they would want it to be it would reduce the legitimacy of the tournament if the outcome is largely determined by technical problems as opposed to actual skill, actual prowess. On top of that, top-level players who played against Musk back in the day thought he was far from quote-unquote semi-pro at Quake. They didn't think he was as good as he claims. And I've seen at least one interview where Dennis Fong talked about playing Elon Musk back in the 90s. He recalled in a 2020 interview, quote, he wasn't very good, end quote. That he thought he was like an average to mediocre player at best. So far from semi-pro. Yeah, so it seems that people who said that they played Elon Musk in Quake back in the 90s, and some of them high-level players like Dennis Fong. Dennis Fong is a recognized Quake champion. There's no doubt about him being actual pro good at Quake. And he thought that Elon was not terribly good at Quake.
So why would he do that with such flimsy pretext? And maybe it's because, he's not the smartest man in the world either, but people believe that on some really flimsy pretext. So and there's probably a lot of other highly impactful stuff that people believe about him with flimsy pretext. So maybe he's just learned in his life that he can make these claims and he'll get a lot of good out of it. And people don't have the balls to challenge him.
Yeah, and I know that there was a stretch for a while where Elon Musk was really interested in promoting his public image through a lot of popular media as this modern day genius, real world Iron Man kind of thing. He literally appeared in Iron Man 2, shaking hands with Tony Stark in an early scene in that movie. He basically played himself in a Rick and Morty episode. There's a whole Simpsons episode where they're just, they're boosting up Elon Musk, which is generally recognized as the worst episode the Simpsons have ever done.
What's that one god-awful movie, Moonfall? Is that it? What's the one?
Yes, Moonfall. Oh, have you ever seen Moonfall, Phil?
No, should I?
No, you should not.
No.
It's horrendous.
No!
Make it very short, the premise is that the moon is falling out of the sky, and it's a disaster movie. And there's a whole section where one character who's supposed to be a conspiracy theorist nerd at one point says that they tried to infiltrate the moon using SpaceX technology, and he literally says on the screen, "Thank you, Elon."
Before we move on from that, I just pulled up his IMDb. Would you like me to read out every property in which he has played himself?
Go ahead.
Okay, here I go. He was Elon Musk in Iron Man 2. He played Elon Musk in Machete Kills. He was Elon Musk, uncredited, in that Johnny Depp movie Transcendence. He was Elon Musk in an episode of The Simpsons. He was in some TV series called Elon Evolution. I'm not going to talk about that. He was Elon Musk in The Big Bang Theory. There's some video called Trolls with a Z on the end. I don't know if that's related to whatever. I don't know what that is. He was the voice of Elon Musk in an episode of South Park. He was Elon Musk in some movie called Why Him. He was Elon Musk in Young Sheldon. He was Alien on Monitor, uncredited, in Men in Black International. That's such an old joke. You always want to play yourself and be like, guess what?
I hate it.
He was Elon Musk in Rick and Morty. He was in another TV series, but he doesn't have a name there. There's something called, he played a turkey in a TV show about turkeys. I don't know what. And something called Elon's Eagles. And then there's a documentary, or I don't know what that is. I'm assuming it's a documentary. Elon Musk, the richest man on earth. And he's got something else coming up that I don't know what it is. But the guy's got range.
He's got range from playing Elon Musk to playing Elon Tusk on Rick and Morty.
Oh, you're right. I misread that. Yeah, no.
So yeah, I think you make a fair observation, Phil. That I think this is part of kind of a larger system of Musk presenting a public persona of him as this, again, kind of Tony Stark in real life, a tech genius, and also, of course, a high-level gamer too. He's got to be that as well. On that note, with talking about him being not very good at Quake, or at least some people think he's not very good, it's worth mentioning that despite his boast, Elon appears to be on the whole pretty terrible at video games. And this is one of the reasons I wanted you on this episode, Phil, this next part of it, because on May the 22nd, 2022, Elon Musk posted on Twitter that he was a fan of Elden Ring and shared a few screenshots of his build, once at level 111 and again at level 121. So I'm going to bring it up and let's take a look at it. All right, so he made a post on May the 22nd, 2022, in which he said, Elden Ring experience in its entirety is the most beautiful art I've ever seen, which eventually inspired someone to ask him what his build was, which he described as Power Mage, but decent with sword/katana. Will post pic of my build tomorrow, which he responded on May the 24th.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. We'll post pic of my build tomorrow once I've had time to frantically build it. Go on.
So here we've got here, for the benefit of our listeners, I'll start with the level 111 build. And Elden Ring has 8 stats: vigor of mind, endurance, strength, dexterity, intelligence, faith, and arcane. Here's a stat distribution. Vigor is 31, mind is 38, endurance 23, strength 16, dexterity 25, intelligence 68, faith 6, arcane 9. I also direct you, Phil, because you are a fat roller, look at his equipment load. For a mage.
I went straight to that, and I was like, he's fat rolling. Now, listen, I willfully fat roll because I think it's beautiful, and screw anybody who has any type of opinion on people you don't know playing the game by your rules. That having been said, he probably had no idea that he was doing that.
Yeah, I have also put on here, I didn't put the specific equipment of his build, but I'm showing you his inventory here. Now, you're a fat roller. I'm not. I'm a mage build. And so I do intelligence dexterity, not unlike what Elon does. And these are awful stats. Like, there's no, like, if you're doing intelligence dex build, like, your equipment load, if I recall, it impacts in part your casting speed when you're a caster. So, like, there's no reason to be fat rolling with heavy load if you're a mage, because it hampers you. He's carrying 2 swords, he's carrying Lusat's glintstone staff, and he's carrying 2 shields and, like, heavy armor. Like, this is dog shit if you're a mage. Like, you should be running light. You should be running lean and fast if you're doing this way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to over-equip, that's probably because you want to trade as a strength character. Like, you want to get in there. And, like, so one of the things I liked about wearing the heaviest armor and a strength build is, that scene in The Simpsons where Bart and Lisa are about to play rock, paper, scissors. And Lisa says, poor predictable Bart. Always chooses rock. And then Bart goes, good old rock. Nothing beats that. I unironically, in my mind, think good old rock. Nothing beats that. That's the way I think about strength builds. So wearing a lot of armor and just having the biggest thing that you can so that whatever gimmick another person is running, you can just kind of obviate it by hitting them once. And you could do that because you can tank a bunch of their hits and get in close. So, like, exactly to what you said, Kevin, the idea that you would do this as a magic build where you're, like, standing back from people is kind of weird.
Yours is basically the Fist of the North Star mentality. It's like, I only need to hit you once.
What's Fist of the North Star?
Oh, you love it. It's a really awesome, super violent 90s anime where the whole premise is there's this guy who has mastered this martial art. It's like a pressure point style martial art. Like, think about like the 5-point exploding heart technique from Kill Bill 2. It's basically that if it were an anime. This guy hits you only once and you explode.
Wow. Wow.
So I think about that when you think about a build like you can tank as many hits as you want. You just need to hit you with that big axe or big great sword once. Whereas like, yeah, I did a mage build in Elden Ring, and like you need to be fast, you need to be dexterous, you need to be able to dodge and know when to have your openings, when you can do like Comet Azure. And we're not even going to talk about the fact that Elon Musk named one of his kids Comet Azure. I put on the screen here too his level 121 build on the left-hand side. So this is a little bit of a higher level in some of these things. And like the one that stands out the most to me, 121, and again, for the benefit of our listeners, I'll say the stats again: Vigor 31, Mind 41, Endurance 25, Strength 16, Dex 30, Intelligence 86, Faith 8, Arcane 9. Again, I did a high intelligence build. There is no reason to be 86 intelligence. You hit a soft cap in intelligence. In any stat, if you put enough points into it, you hit what's called a soft cap. And a soft cap is basically where you no longer see any real material benefits to leveling up that stat. And 86 is well beyond the intelligence soft cap. Like, I leveled my character to, I think, 63 intelligence because I wanted to be able to use Comet Azure, which I think is I may edit this in post, but I think that's 63 intelligence. There's no reason to go beyond that. Like, it's not beneficial. Hey there, fellow netizens, this is Kevin, the editor here, with some clarifications about Elden Ring, particularly when it comes to using intelligence and building up a sorcery build, which is using spells that specifically rely on the stat intelligence. So first off, let's talk about what the soft cap is for intelligence. So I'm pulling from a 2025 article by Marlos Valentina Stella from January the 1st, 2025, about the soft caps in 2025 at least. The soft caps for Elden Ring, which again are soft caps, are the point at which the stat increases for leveling up a specific stat in Elden Ring become no longer really valuable. You no longer get measurable increases in other categories by leveling up a specific stat. And at that point, it makes more sense logistically to level up other stats instead. So let's talk about intelligence. So intelligence has several different soft caps, but I'm going to specifically focus on sorceries because I anticipate that's probably what Elon Musk is leveling up his intelligence for, is specifically for the use of sorceries, which are intelligence-based spells. There are two soft caps for intelligence. Those are between level 60 and level 80. So pretty much after level 60, there's really no benefit in leveling up your intelligence except to get to the minimum intelligence level to utilize different spells. So with that, let's go from when he posted this. The Shadow of the Erdtree DLC had not been put out yet. So I'm going to go based on the intelligence levels of what were the highest level spells in the base game for Elden Ring. So not the DLC for Elden Ring. So taking that into account, the highest intelligence stat you would need to wield the strongest sorcery in the base game of Elden Ring would be 70, which would get you Renella's Full Moon. Now, they later on added in the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC Renella's Twin Moons, which requires a 72 intelligence. There's pretty much, from an intelligence build player's standpoint, from my standpoint at least, there's really no reason to build up your intelligence any further than that. So for example, Ranni's Dark Moon is level 68 intelligence. So the next lowest one is Comet Azure, which Elon Musk named one of his children after. That is a real thing, which the intelligence is level 60. So I would argue that pretty much once you get past those stat levels, there's really no reason to gain any more intelligence aside from, I guess, you like doing that and not having them in actually useful stats. I wouldn't be presumptuous enough to call myself an expert in Elden Ring, but I am a veteran of Elden Ring, and I'm a veteran of the Souls games in general. I've played through every mainline FromSoft Souls game. I played through everything except for Sekiro. And I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't share what my build is, because if Elon is saying that he is a intelligence dexterity build, I also fancy myself an intelligence build. So I thought by comparison I would share what my build is. I've put in about 188 hours into Elden Ring. I beat the base game. I started New Game Plus, but it really hasn't hooked me to play it again, and I've yet to play the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Anyway, I thought it would be worthwhile sharing my build by comparison for my character, who's very, very early into a New Game Plus build. I have not leveled up since going into New Game Plus, and my stats are at level 180, 55 Vigor, 36 Mind, 20 Intelligence, 17 Strength, 26 Dexterity, 70 Intelligence, 22 Faith, 14 Arcane. I also thought I would share what my equipment load is because again, Elon he likes heavy rolling with multiple shields. I am not a light load. I try to do at least, try to be deft and dexterous to the point that I can dodge enemy attacks and line myself up for heavy level spells like Common Azure, like Meteorite of Astral. My equipment load is medium. My gear is primarily Fashion Souls based. So my character is sporting the Navy Hood, Alberic's Robe, Melania's Gauntlet, and Melania's Greaves. My weapons, I'm primarily wielding the Dark Moon Greatsword. I always try to get the Moonlight Greatsword or its variants in most of the Souls games because I think it's a really, really cool weapon. It's leveled to plus 10. If the situation calls for it, I also have a couple of other primarily dexterity-based weapons that I call in for specific situations. So, for example, I have a plus 25 Godskin Peeler, which I primarily used on the Elden Beast because it is very, very weak to dark. I also have the Blood Antspur Rapier level plus 25, which I used primarily to inflict heavy bleed, particularly on the fire giant, who I was stuck on for a long time. My other equipment that's worth mentioning, I carry the Carrion Regal Scepter plus 10, the Golden Order Seal plus 9, and crucially, no shields, because when you're doing that kind of build, you don't need shields. You shouldn't need shields. My talismans, if you're curious, are Dragoncrest Great Shield Talisman, Pearl Drake Talisman plus 2, Graven Mask Talisman, Erdtree's Favor plus 2. I make no promises that I am any kind of expert or semi-pro or pro-good at Elden Ring, but this has served me pretty well. It's been fun for 188 hours, and I've made it through the base game built on that. So I thought I would at least share that by comparison. I hope this at least gives you at least a little bit more context for what we're talking about when we talk about Elon Musk's poor build in Elden Ring. And with that, back to the show. It's an awful build. It's a real bad one.
Yeah, I remember when we were playing Elden Ring, Kevin, and in the beginning, I was able to do a lot just because I was wearing heavy armor and I was a strength build and I could tank a lot of hits. By the end, you had gone mage. And you were just like fighting dragons one-on-one. You were just like, let me throw this wall of meteors at this dragon. And I was just like, I'm gonna be over here. If you need anything, like you call me. And so like you were able to do that. And okay, so I came up with one use case for why you should level one stat to 99 in a Soulsborne game. And this was specific to Bloodborne. So one of the things that it really annoyed me was that I would be playing with somebody like Andy, who was new to the game, and we would be somewhere and then get invaded. And like, I'm up for being invaded, but that kind of ruins the experience for somebody who's new. So what I did was I leveled up my arcane to 99. So when I played the game with Andy, I would use non-arcane weapons so that we could play like a normal game, like the way players normally play. But if somebody invaded, I would immediately switch to an arcane weapon, one-shot them, and it was just like, that was the one like genius moment I thought I had, like in a Soulsborne game. So it's like, oh, it's the best of both worlds. And if something gets out of control with the boss and you're in a situation where it's like, I don't know, you got to eat dinner in 5 minutes and you really need to kill this boss, and you can always just kind of bust out that arcane weapon.
So yeah, these are Elon's build. We were not the only ones having a good laugh over this because, while there were legions of supportive dude bros who were quick to fawn over his character, several experienced players noted his build was overall pretty maidenless. For one, his character, which he described as, again, power mage but decent with a sword/katana, had wonky stat distribution, having intelligence well beyond the game's soft cap. He also curiously sported 2 shields and had a heavy equipment load, both odd choices for an intelligence dexterity build for the reasons we talked about. Like, you want to be being lightweight if you're doing dex, because dex and intelligence, the equipment load determines how fast and how often you can hit enemies. Because if you're doing strength, you can just hit them once, and it doesn't matter that you're running slow. Again, you just got to get there once. But when you're doing dex, you've got to keep hitting, especially if you're trying to proc up a specific stat effect like Scarlet Rot or Poison. So it didn't make any sense. He also claimed that he adjusted his equipment, quote, if fast roll is needed, end quote, which again makes no sense. He should be, based on those stat distributions, like he should be going for fast load anyway, and not if needed. You needed that all the time if you're doing the build he claims he does. But needless to say, veteran Souls players had a gay old time mocking his awful build, and I want to get more people more involved saying some funny things. So there are 2 Twitter posts I want you all to read. Who wants to read the first one? They're both very short.
I can do it.
All right, so This first one, it received over 1,900 likes responding to Elon Musk's build.
Why do you have two shields, you dummy?
And the second one, which got over 1,700 likes, and I'll have you read this one, Phil.
If this build was an electric car, it would trap you inside as it burst into flames.
It's the Cybertruck of builds.
That would explain a lot, wouldn't it?
He doesn't have a great history of being good at video games. And with that foundation, let us skip ahead to the end of 2024 and into 2025. I promise this was a look back at 2025. The year of our Lord 2025 proved pretty busy for old Elon. Well, with, among other things, delivering a Nazi salute at Trump's inauguration. Correction. 2 Nazi salutes at Trump's inauguration, indiscriminately gutting a whole bunch of federally funded programs through Doge, allegedly getting into a fistfight with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and training Twitter's AI chatbot Grok to go on racist and anti-Semitic rants while calling itself Becca Hitler.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to make fun of people for low stakes lies. Like, I don't know, your Elden Ring build is not very good, but it's all fun and games. Or, like if the president made a vodka that was not very good. But then when the people who do lots of low stakes lying get put in positions of power where there are no checks and balances, you kind of have to wonder how they're going to go about things.
Yeah, it's easy enough to, and one of my theses ultimately, because it kind of doesn't matter whether or not Elon Musk is a good video game player or not. I think it's more interesting that he wants people to think he is. But yeah, he's one of those people who is, when it comes down to it, he's playing with live ammunition a lot, and he's in a position where he is doing things that have a significant amount of impact over lots of people's lives. Also, going along with this in terms of all these, I guess, accomplishments, I guess is what I would call them charitably. It also came out, and this I just added to the script because it just came out in an article. It came out in a February the 20th, 2026 report from Business Insider that Musk personally held up the release of key Grok features because he was training it to give him tips on how to better play Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, GameFAQs is a thing, dude.
There are lots of reasons to hold up a launch. I don't think that's one of them.
The other thing is, speaking of Grok, he also had an entire work team at XAI dedicated to teaching Grok to play League of Legends for him.
Oh, come on. Was he looking for a sponsorship?
This chatbot that can now put out nudes of anyone is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends.
Everything's brought to us by Raid Shadow Legends.
Apparently, that is the one to get if you're a YouTuber. Everyone's like, it finally happened. I got the Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship. I don't know if that's true. I don't know anything about this, but
Kevin, why isn't the podcast sponsored yet by Raid Shadow Legends?
or at least Manta Sleep Mask. I want one of those.
Yeah, these are all the things that Elon was doing. And somehow, despite all of this, Elon Musk managed to log in some quality game time. Even when he wasn't having, his chatbot tell him how to be good at Baldur's Gate and play League of Legends for him. He even reportedly installed a massive TV in Washington, D.C.'s Eisenhower building to satisfy his gaming fix. One of Elon's favorites in 2024, going into 2025, was Diablo 4. Anyone here a player of Diablo 4?
No.
I did play Diablo 4. I played a lot of Diablo 3. Me and Andy played a lot of Diablo. One of the things he would do, like whenever he would visit, we would create new characters in Diablo 3 and just play the campaign just for shits and giggles.
Nice.
I will say, so I did achieve one thing in Diablo 3. In Season 23, for solo barbarians, specifically in Greater Rifts, I had a top 100 ranking.
Nice.
And I don't think I'm particularly good, but, it was one of those things where I just ground away at it for a long enough period of time that I was able to do it. I did meet the #1 barbarian in the world in a rift I randomly went into one day. And this dude was it was beautiful the way that he was going about setting up the map and grinding down these monsters. So I met this guy and I was just like, I want to do everything you're doing. You're the best. He's like, oh, okay, check out my YouTube channel. So I went to his YouTube channel and it turned out he was the #1 barbarian in the world, Snow Leopard.
Dope.
That dude was awesome.
That's very cool. Shout out to Snow Leopard.
Yeah, shout out to Snow Leopard. I hope you're doing okay out there, buddy. All that to say, I still don't think that's particularly impressive. So the fact that I had to issue so many qualifications for one thing I feel like I did in the game, this one season, this one character, this one circumstance, greater rifts only. It's really surprising for someone to just say, "Oh, I'm one of the top X or so players in this game at everything." Like, do you know how much people play these Diablo games?
But he's the bestest boy, and he wants everyone to know that he is the bestest boy. So, for the uninitiated, Diablo 4 is an isometric fantasy-themed action role-playing game developed by Blizzard and released in 2023. So Elon likes to claim that he's a really, really great Diablo 4 player. During an appearance on the November 4th, 2024 episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, he bragged he was 19th on the game's worldwide rankings, and at one point held the fastest completion time on a level 150 run of the Artificer's Pit, which is apparently one of the game's hardest challenges. Again, I don't know very much about Diablo to say whether or not that's an accomplishment or not.
I don't think I've played enough of Diablo 4 to know whether that's an accomplishment. I know 150 was the highest greater rift you could hit in Diablo 3. It also depends on what type of build or what type of character you're using when you clear a rift. So like if you were to use, like a wizard or a rogue or something, it would be easy to clear a greater rift 150. But if you're using barbarian, because I insist on being a barbarian in everything I do, whether it's a good idea or not, it's really hard to clear like a greater rift 150 with the barbarian. So like, you kind of have to know about what kind of build he was using to know whether or not it was impressive.
I would have to do more digging about what, then I may add a thing in post about exactly what build he was doing. I kind of didn't care at this point because the stuff I'm going to cover next, but I will put that in at least for context, what his build was for these. Hey there, fellow netizens. This is Kevin in the editor's chair with a brief addendum here. I promised I would go back and say what Elon Musk's character is, and doing a little bit of digging, I found a website called MMOORPG.com, which put out a post on December the 18th, 2024, of Elon Musk's Diablo 4 build, and they described his build as a shred druid, which according to their writing quote, a class that combines speed, high DPS, which is damage per second, and mobility. This build is optimized for players who need to dish out massive damage while avoiding enemy attacks, end quote. It's pretty fawning for Elon's contributions, and as we see later on, I'm a bit skeptical of how well he did on Diablo 4, but I will include a link in the description just so you can read over at least a little bit of information about Musk's alleged build. And with that, back to the show. So he was playing a bunch of Diablo 4 at the end of 2024 into 2025. And at the start of 2025, his next gaming conquest was Path of Exile 2. Is either of you familiar with Path of Exile 2?
No.
Nope.
From what I see, I'm not hugely familiar. It seems like it's a lot like Diablo in terms of its premise. It's a isometric fantasy themed RPG. It looks very similar in principle to Diablo. It was released via early access by Grinding Gear Games for the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series on December the 6th, 2024. And to hear Elon tell it, he is super good at PoE 2, achieving a level 97 character in the game's hardcore mode. Now, the game's hardcore mode is the game's hardest setting, and it includes a permadeath feature. So once your character dies once, they're gone forever. So he's level 97 on permadeath in PoE 2. And he bragged one of his characters, an invoker with the name Perseverance, which I've got to imagine is a play on Perseverance, was at one point the 12th best character in the world. Super good. Perseverance.
Was that actually true?
That brings us to another installment of Elon Musk versus reality. So do we think that any of this is true? Is Elon Musk as good at this game as he claims?
No.
I would have to guess no as well.
You won't be shocked to learn that some people think we shouldn't believe the guy with the long history of inflating, if not outright lying about his accomplishments. And beginning in January 2025, here's the real controversy that I wanted to cover here. Beginning in January 2025, some in the gaming community began to call his mad fly skills into question. On the one hand, achieving a high-level character in a game like Diablo 4 or PoE 2, especially on their hardest difficulties, is pretty time-consuming, leaving some to wonder how the CEO of multiple companies had so much time at his hands to get good. I mean, those SpaceX rockets aren't going to blow themselves out of the sky. On the other hand, Elon started live streaming his Path of Exile 2 sessions, and while they attracted their fair share of sycophants who paid homage to the Lord of the Memes, some veteran players were quick to point out that the allegedly elite player who at one point likely had unfettered access to your social security account was by all appearances pretty dog shit at the game. During his streams, he appeared to struggle with many of the basic concepts and optimization strategies that would be second nature to someone who had played as much as he allegedly has, leading some to accuse him of account boosting, which, those unfamiliar, is a practice where you have other players play your account to boost up your stats and or progression. It's basically having one or several other people play the game for you. Some critics who watched his streams also noted his gaming setup was pretty basic, especially for someone as stupidly rich as he is. In January 2025, Chris Person of Aftermath examined Musk's rig based on his livestream videos and pointed out the sheer level of cheap, poorly optimized equipment he uses, which, might fly if you're someone starting out a Let's Play channel on a budget, but not if you're a person who claims to be the bestest gamer while simultaneously the wealthiest man on the planet, concluding, quote, Musk wants to be perceived as intelligent and epic, but his gaming setup looks like something put together by someone without the patience or self-awareness to learn to do things correctly. If he has the capacity for shame left in him, he should at least try interrogating how mid his battle station is and seeing where that leads, end quote.
So how many different games does he make these types of claims about?
Those are the big ones right now. I think he plays other stuff. He comments occasionally on podcasts and when he's on Twitter. Those are the ones he's just kind of playing right now. But again, he needs people to know that he's not just an elite gamer, but one of those elite gamers who's been doing it since, before it was cool kind of thing.
How's that working out for him?
Well, we're going to go a little bit deeper on this. So going back to Path of Exile 2, Elon handled the scrutiny over his alleged power playing as well as you could expect from someone who paid $44 billion so he could radicalize himself on his own personal social media platform, namely making immature outbursts at his critics. He wasn't handling it terrible well. Perhaps the most noteworthy episode of the billionaire meme lord getting big mad at his gaming haters was his feud with streamer Zach Hoyt, aka Asmongold. By any chance, Phil, are you familiar with Asmongold?
I actually am. I've seen a few of his clips playing Elden Ring.
So yeah, Asmongold, he's a pretty big name in the Let's Play scene. As of this recording, he boasts over 4.2 million subscribers on YouTube and 3.6 million followers on Twitch. He's like one of the, if not the biggest, Let's Players around right now. On January the 12th, 2025, during a reaction video where he watched another gaming YouTuber detail the evidence that Musk appears to be a total noob when it comes to the games he claims he's great at, Hoyt commented, quote, I'm completely convinced Elon didn't play the character. I feel like everybody just knows that, right? End quote. Later adding, quote, I feel like it's a universal negative for him to do this, and it just makes him look like an insecure asshole by doing it, end quote.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
Yeah, so people who are in the gaming scene are starting to call Musk out on that he's not at the level that he's claiming he is.
I would also say that Asmon is not, I wouldn't say he's one of the top Elden Ring players in the world. He's just one of the most popular. And he's popular because, he's relatable. Like the way he goes about the game and some of the mistakes he makes are relatable, and he's an entertaining person. But so even he can tell that Elon Musk doesn't have a lot of experience with the game.
Yeah, and the thing about Asmongold, he's popular. He's very popular, and he's got a very, very big audience when it comes to folks in the gaming community. And this clearly struck a nerve for Musk, who is by all accounts a fan of Asmongold. And in response, Elon posted the following on X on January the 16th, 2025. So I'll have you, Phil, read this one.
Asmon behaves like a maverick independent, but in reality has to ask his boss for permission before he can do anything. He's not his own man.
Yeah, so what do we think about that? The comment.
I mean, only an insecure asshole would be offended by that and then feel like they have to respond, right?
And this is, again, one of the most powerful people on earth right now.
So, if anybody in any stream, I'm a nobody. And even though I'm proud of some of the things I've done in video games, if anybody at any point in any of their streams said that I was bad and that I probably over-exaggerated how good I was, the answer is yes. Okay, nobody's good. There's Let Me Solo Her. Okay, that person is good. Everybody else sucks.
Yeah, it is literally Let Me Solo Her and then everyone else.
Yeah, and then we all suck.
Unless you were Let Me Solo Her, you're with the rest of us. We're all in the gutter looking up at the stars and let me solo her.
Yeah. I mean, that's the person everybody calls when they're screwed. And I mean, even the good people, when they had trouble, they would someone let me solo her if they could.
Did you ever come across let me solo her?
God, I wish I had. I really could have used that person's help.
So Elon not happy about this. After this post, which Elon Musk has since deleted, he has since deleted this post, Elon leaked a series of DMs between him and Asmongold. They were DMing each other. He leaked a series of DMs between the pair where Asmongold told Musk about his two editors who manage his YouTube channel, which the super cool genius who once had to recall every Cybertruck on the market due to horrendous safety issues somehow thought was some smoking gun that Hoyt had no control over his own content, which a bunch of posters, including X's own community notes, immediately called him out on, explaining why the fact that Hoyt had editors doesn't mean that he works for them. Like, it's literally a message where Asmongold mentions that he has his I'll have my editors work on it or whatever for his YouTube channel. So like he's hired people to edit his YouTube to put it out there, and Elon Musk put that out there as like, see, he works for his editors. Even though that's clearly not what is happening, and not to sound mean, but a basic level reading comprehension would show that that's not what's happening. Musk then answered with effectively the classic retort, I know you are, but what am I? Declaring in another post that Asmongold was the real fake gamer here, posting the following on X. So I'm going to have you read this one, Kate.
Oh boy. And this is Elon?
This is Elon Musk on Twitter, yes.
All right. I'm not going to do the voice, but I'm just trying to know who I'm talking about. All right. I'm on hundreds of streams on YouTube/Twitch, playing live with the world's best players. No other way to say this, but while Asmon is good at caustic commentary and making fun of people, he is not good at video games.
Boom. So, see, Asmon's the real hack here. He's the real one who is terrible at video games.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
I'm out here playing with the best video gamers, and Asmon's not good at video games. Are you saying that he's not on there with you, or are you saying he's on there with you and he's doing poorly, or what? What?
You know, his mind works on a level that is not where most minds are. Musk also, on top of that, unfollowed Asmongold on X, and Hoyt temporarily lost his blue check mark on January the 16th, which led some to speculate that Musk personally revoked his paid verification out of spite.
Yeah, so like Asmon may not be one of the best players in the world, but he's clearly good enough to tell who's good and who's not.
But you know what? Before you go feeling too bad for old Asmongold, it's worth mentioning that Hoyt, like the fascist supporting Great Replacement theory advocating ultra-billionaire beefing with him, is also something of a far-right provocateur who likes to air out his knee-jerk political opinions on stream to his millions of followers. For example, and I had a lot of examples I got to pull from, during an October 3rd, 2025 video, Hoyt commented that he was against using excessive force against anti-ICE protesters in Portland, Oregon, because if police hurt them, then they wouldn't be efficient workers in the labor camps he hoped they would get sent to.
Super.
Yeah. Asmon believes some really odious shit, and he broadcasts it on his channel to his millions of subscribers. On top of that, he also has a well-documented reputation for living in gross squalor, despite being reportedly worth around $5 million. He has, on several occasions, shown off the corpses of animals he found dead in his house during live streams. And in the most extreme example a few years ago, Hoyt claimed during a stream he had taken to using a dead rat as an alarm clock, which he allegedly kept by his window and would wake him as the rising sun cooked the rat, causing it to stink. And I feel like in this moment I should have mentioned at the outset that there are no heroes in this story.
But Asmon is probably not claiming to be something that he's not, though. I would say that's maybe the difference between him and Elon Musk.
I just thought that was like his persona is just being like a gross bridge troll.
Yeah, those two deserve each other.
Okay, no heroes here. Whoever wins, we lose. On that disgusting note, let's pivot back to Elon, as eventually, unlike Asmon's filthy home, Musk came clean about being a phony who lies about being good at video games. In a video published on January the 18th, 2025, YouTuber Nico Rex shared, with Elon's permission, a text exchange between the two, where Musk matter-of-factly admitted that his elite play in Path of Exile 2 and Diablo 4 was more of a group effort than his singular accomplishment. Musk, despite his previous tantrum over being called out as a fraud, was unapologetic about needing the billionaire equivalent of an older brother to beat the game for him, explaining he had to bring in other players to boost his characters because, quote, the top accounts in Diablo or PoE required multiple people playing the account to win a leveling race, end quote. Later adding, quote, it's impossible to beat the players in Asia if you don't, as they do, end quote. So yeah, you see, Elon, if he wants to be elite gamer, because he has to be an elite gamer for some reason, he needs a team to beat all of those players playing in like South Korea and China. He needs that, you see.
I certainly do.
Ni hao to my team. As an aside, several observers pointed out that account sharing is both against Path of Exile 2's and Diablo 4's respective terms of service. You're technically not supposed to do that. And with that in mind, I implore Blizzard, Grinding Gear Games, you both have the chance to do the funniest thing by banning Elon Musk just to see him crash out. I can already see the future headlines. Butthurt banned billionaire buys Blizzard.
It's so alliterative.
Can I go on a slight tangent about sharing accounts? But
Go for it.
so, like, one of the things with games with seasons, like Diablo 3 and 4, are that, gathering the equipment that you need is part of the game. But the specific way Diablo 3 was set up, you would have to start every new season. If you were like one of the players who was really just going to try to push to get on leaderboards and be as good as you wanted, it was hard to do that without very specific gear. And the early game that you had to go through at the start of every season was just really not helpful at all. So for the people who are really good at that game, you can make an argument that it's okay to start your account, like not to give yourself like 10,000 Paragon points, but to give yourself some of the baseline stuff so that you don't have to do all the basic grinding, I think is okay. So I don't want to say that account sharing is bad in all settings. I've also never done it. I'm not trying to like give you like a closeted defense of my own behavior, but it's okay, I think, in some circumstances, but definitely bad in this one.
The thing that it reminds me of is like, imagine a scenario where like if I had like lots of money and I decided I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player and I paid Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper to do all of my at bats and say they get a combined like 70 home runs that way or whatever, then I would go around and saying that I had hit 70 home runs is the way I see it. Like, I feel like that's the equivalent of that. Like, you're taking credit for other people's work and passing it off as your own, you know?
Yeah, I mean, does the Bat Boy get a World Series ring if Shohei Ohtani like wins the World Series for the Dodgers? I guess, but you kind of have to let everybody know that you're the Bat Boy.
Yeah. Fred the Bat Boy, he won those two World Series for them. Like, we could not have done it without you, Fred.
If somebody didn't get the bats out of the way, who knows what horror could have happened?
Yeah. The cascading effect. A bat's left out there. Shohei Ohtani slips on it. He breaks every bone in his body. The Dodgers don't win the World Series, and the team is, I don't know, they move back to Brooklyn or something. They're kicked out of LA, and all for the one of Fred.
Move back to Brooklyn.
Now, let me be clear. Like, going back to what we talked about, I honestly don't care whether or not Elon Musk is good at video games. It does. It is so. Him being an unrepented cheater and liar about video games, it isn't even a blip on the radar when you care about all the many odious things he has done. He's like, there's so many other things that are higher on the radar, like signal boosting white supremacists and Holocaust deniers on his personal social media platform, or using Doge to gut USAID, where like there was a report in the Lancet from July 19, 2025 that predicted that the cuts that Musk led to USAID could lead to 14 million deaths, including the deaths of 4.5 million children. Like, there are so many worse things that he is active in doing. Like, there's just no reason why he needs to be good at video games or tell people he's good at video games. Like, it kind of doesn't matter. But what I think is more interesting, the reason I talked about Elon Musk here is that what I think is more interesting is the fact that a man who is worth a little less than $500 billion as this recording feels compelled to make people think he's some sort of Captain N style game master. Like, why does a man who could literally buy or sell any of us for pennies on the dollar feel the need for validation from randos on X, Reddit, or 4chan? Like, he shouldn't care what the plebs think of him, you know?
Wait a minute. It sounds like there's something out there that I can't have.
I mean, that's the thing is that, you know, when your ego's this fragile and you're this ruled by your emotions, you do need everything. It does matter. And I'm not saying you know what I mean. Like, it does seem like it does matter. It matters to me that everybody thinks that I'm really good at this, that people like me, that everybody likes me, that everybody thinks that I'm awesome in every aspect of everything that I do, that nobody thinks that there's anything wrong with me or anything that I need to change, and that in fact I am changing the world and I am the smartest and the best and the brightest. I'm not just good at video games, I'm great at video games. I'm the best at video games, Yeah, anyway, rant over.
There's a picture of Elon Musk next to the expression that money cannot buy happiness. Like he literally has more money than anyone else on this planet, and he cannot buy happiness from it. The fact that he needs people to say that people need to pat him on the head and say that he's a good boy, that he's the bestest boy, that he's the most special boy, like that says so much about him as a person. Like he's so desperate for these, online randos approval that he will just straight up pay people to boost its stats if it means Doge Lover 42069 or like Elon Bud 1488 or whoever will tell him that he's just a super cool dude,
Just by our luck, Doge Lover 42069 is going to be like one of the 3 listeners we actually have. That person just started crying and hit delete and then just blocked us.
Wait, Doge Lover 42069.
Thanks, Kevin. There goes our sponsorship that was coming from Raid Shadow Legends.
You're going to say, there goes our sponsorship from Doge.
Ayo.
EU.
So, Kate, I really like some of the stuff that you were saying. It got me thinking, like, why somebody who's so successful would do something like that. And you would have to think that it's because this type of behavior works in every other aspect of their lives. Like, in terms of business, when they make some sort of stipulation about, humanity's going to Mars. And suddenly everybody's like, oh, I guess humanity's going to Mars now. So that works. And there are so many different apparatuses that will marshal themselves to defend whatever your narrative is. If you're like an oligarch who can buy the Wall Street Journal or buy another newspaper and bury stories and have all sorts of world governments catering to you, that if that works in every other aspect of your life, the fact that something based on novelty is not available to you in that way, like I'm sure really just comes as a major shock to some of these people.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of it also just stems from this conversation isn't about me. And I can't contribute to it in a way that is dominating the conversation. Like if we talk about this is that board game. And like, let's say that you and Kevin have played the board game, but I never have. And the two of you start to nerd out on it. Like, oh, that's really cool. I had a lot of fun doing it. And I might just be content to just sit here and listen and learn from the both of you. But if I just like, wait, this isn't about me. This isn't about me. I'm not the center of attention. I got to be the center of attention. Then I have to not just say, oh, I've played that game too, even if I haven't. I have to say, oh, I played that game. I got 1,000,000%. I got like the impossible high score. And even if you are like, well, how? I'm curious. Oh no, I did. And like the things that you say to make that story true in your mind, even if they don't make sense. And as much as the two of you then question me, then it's like, well, you two are the problem. You just don't like me. I'm awesome and people just don't like successful people. That's what the problem is, or something like that. Like it's that you need to be a part of it, you need to own it, and you need to not just be a part of it and kind of own the conversation, but you need to be the best at it. Again, it's yeah, that's the thing.
I think that also with that is like, if you're a billionaire oligarch like Musk, you have to believe that a meritocracy exists and that the reason you have all of this wealth is because you are one of the bestest people. You're an elite person who's like one of the most intelligent, greatest people out there. And video games is like one of the few, like competitive video game like this is like one of the few true meritocracies where it's like, you're at the top ranks because you're generally very good at those games. You've learned to master the strategies, you know them inside and out. And it's a place where he is, in terms of a meritocracy, a failure. And he needs people to, again, think that he's even the bestest at this and like will do what he does, which is like buy his way through it. I was reminded of, there's a really great podcast called If Books Could Kill, in which the host, they look at a lot of like pop books, like airplane books that gain a lot of attention. and basically look closer into the people who wrote them and like break down, in many cases, the very, very poor or flawed or even very, very terrible ideas that these books have and advocate. And they talked about Walter Isaacson's biography of Elon Musk. And they tell us an anecdote about Elon that Isaacson witnessed. I'm going to paraphrase this here, where Musk was playing a poker game with a bunch of other guys, and he kept going all in on every hand. He goes all in and he loses. Goes all in again, he loses. Goes all in again, he loses. Goes all in again a couple more times and he loses. And eventually, after many losses of this, he went all in and he won a hand. And once he did that, he took his winnings and he left. So there, he's brute forced his way to the top of this particular poker game. And that sums up a lot of, I think, this mentality that Musk has in terms of like, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get to the top no matter what way I get there. And then I'm going to declare myself the bestest at it.
There's something to be said about going about your life that way to get what you want, but you need to have the self-awareness that you're not good.
I think there's the rub, the self-awareness. I think the thing that we keep going back to when we're all talking about like not being terribly good at certain games, even though we love them, and like I don't think that is a thing that is registering to him. The self-awareness, the self-reflection. It's I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. He lived the Pokemon lifestyle.
Don't get Elon into Pokemon, no.
So yeah, again, going back to this, what I find fascinating is that, like, Elon Musk's dogshit gaming resume. It's what I think is the most fascinating about this, and his response to, like, Asmongold calling them out of it. It's clearly a weak point. It's a soft spot for Elon Musk. It's a place where someone could get to him. And like one of the byproducts wrought by social media is that like it's given like average people a previously unheard of level of direct access to the rich and powerful. Like you can just easily set up an account and tell like the world's social and political elite that they're terrible and they suck and go fuck themselves and all this stuff. Like you couldn't tell John D. Rockefeller that, yet all these layers of abstraction between them. But now because people like this, like Musk, like Trump, they're perpetually online and they're perpetually in these social media spheres that you at any point could have some level of direct access to the most powerful people on earth.
And get them to all back you up that you're a great Elden Ring player.
And what's really interesting is that in calling out his, awful video game play, there's a possibility that your average Joe can spoil the day of even the richest man on earth. And calling out Elon Musk for being a fake gamer guy has actually rapidly become a tool in the larger war against the global rise of fascism, of which Musk is a key component. So, for example, during a February the 4th, 2025 protest against Doge cuts held outside the U.S. Treasury building in Washington, D.C., one prominent sign bore the message, quote, "Elon Musk cheats at Diablo," end quote. Elon haters have also started invading his live streams to tell him how much of a talentless loser he is. On April 5th, 2025, Musk livestreamed Path of Exile 2 over X while flying on his private jet. Very, very relatable experience there. And his chat quickly became overrun with people spamming him with, not so nice messages. And because I'm a thorough researcher and believe in the preservation of information, here are some select entries. And I thought that we could take turns reading them again, strictly for posterity. I'll put a list. So, who wants to go for the first one?
Kevin, you do that one.
I can do it. Nice cuck shed.
Okay, what is a cuck shed?
I assume they're talking about, there's betas and cucks. And I think that's saying, like, that he is a cuck, and this is his shed in which he is inhabiting.
Oh, see, I thought it was the shed he goes and sits in to watch,
It could be. So he can play games while he's there.
All right, I'll do the next one. You ruined America.
Make it clap for me, Elon.
Money can't buy brain.
All caps. You have no friends and you will die alone.
You will always feel insecure and it will never go away.
Also all caps. Elon, how is it possible to look this dumb and ugly? Why is your Tesla company falling apart?
Ooh.
Elon, don't ooh for him. Elon, deep down, you will always be cringe no matter how much money or power you have. Yep.
I thought that was the sickest of burns. That's why I saved it for last.
By the way, Phil, I was joking there. I appreciated your ooh.
Well, thank you.
I didn't want you to go picking on you.
And so what's funny about all this, Musk interestingly kept the chat active despite this string of abuse, although given his general gaming incompetence, it's possible he didn't know how to turn the chat off. And he eventually
Don't free the Greys. Why did you free the Greys? Oh God, why are the Greys here? Why are the Greys here?
Some people know what that means and they will laugh over that. So he eventually abruptly ended the live stream after he lost his server connection, causing his character, who sported the 4chan inspired name of Kekius Maximus, in case you forgot the level of internet brain rot we're dealing with here, causing Kekius Maximus to unceremoniously die in the tutorial boss. Are we all familiar with the term Kek?
I am actually not, because I'm still a video game newbie.
So I will give the very, very short version of this is 4chan shit to say Kek. Kek is, I'm pulling from the Wikipedia about this. This is part of the Pepe the Frog one, just to tell you where we're at right now. I'm quoting from the Wikipedia right now. Kek, from Kikiki, a Korean language onomatopoeia of laughter used similar to LOL, is the Korean equivalent of the English haha. Since it is often used in StarCraft matches, Blizzard StarCraft developers decided to reference it in World of Warcraft when a player in the Horde faction types LOL using the say messaging command. Members of the opposing faction see it as Kek. A common misconception is that Kek originated as a variation of Lel, itself a variation of LOL. And Kek quickly became associated with alt-right and far-right, especially on 4chan, around 2016. So to say something is Kek is referencing to alt-right stuff. And at one point in January of 2025, Elon changed his username on X to Kekius Maximus. So he's the biggest lol person on 4chan. It's that kind of shit that we're talking about here. And there's going to be books written about the amount that like just internet meme culture and places like 4chan and Twitter just completely just destroyed his brain. The level of this red pilling that he has been subjected to is incredible. So yeah, he calls his character Kekius Maximus and dies to the tutorial boss. And after that, he immediately signed off. He was out.
Wait, and what game was this?
This was in Path of Exile 2.
Okay.
And so I want to kind of like do a bigger picture on this. So I believe the kerfuffles over Elon's paucity of gaming prowess point to a larger, more interesting truth, which is, like I said before, Elon Musk is a notable example of how social media has cultivated a world where the masses have an unprecedented degree of access to the world's elite. And it leads to the point where you can directly mess with people like Elon. Clearly, this makes him sad. This clearly gets under his skin. And like you could ruin his day for the low price of some anonymous trolling time on a live stream.
I'm just reminded of like that, without giving too much away, when Kevin and I went to a concert in Philly a few weeks ago, and the opening act basically said that they became the opening act for the main act because they saw that they were going to be in Philly, and they messaged them on Instagram and said, I want to be the opening act for you. And said, what's cool about social media is we technically have everybody's phone number now. It's just like, I feel like that's true. It's like, technically we all have Elon Musk's phone number now and we can bother him.
Yeah, you could try to slide into his DMs as just being some rando. And like, that's, again, going back to the, you know, wealthy oligarchs of the past. Like, you're not going to do that with like Andrew Carnegie, you know? It's up by Telegram. Dear Andrew, stop. You suck. Stop. Signed, Kekius Maximus. Stop.
Dear Mr. Rockefeller, you up. Stop.
And what's really interesting about this is, again, this unprecedented access. It's like, I feel like making fun of Elon Musk, calling out his bad video game play, going on his live streams and like commenting on his cuck shed and all that. It's kind of part of, I think, a larger history of small acts of resistance against influential figures that goes back a long time. So I'm going to mention a couple of examples. Like, for example, on April 16th, 1977, Aaron Kay, who was a member of the left-wing group, the Youth International Party, or the Yips. They were founded by this guy called Abbie Hoffman. The Yippies, they're called. So Aaron Kay, accompanied by a photographer, he infiltrated a speaking engagement at New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel for anti-feminist activist Phyllis Schlafly. I'm not going to go into Phyllis Schlafly too much here, but she was a vocal opponent of gay rights, of abortion access. She was one of the biggest voices opposing the Equal Rights Amendment in the 1970s. It's a very notable conservative figure in the 70s. And so they infiltrated a speaking engagement, and disguised as a reporter, Kay pulled out an apple pie he hid in his briefcase, threw said pie into Schlafly's face, and then absconded away. Just went in, wham, pie, out the door he went.
That's a look.
Years later, when he reflected on the incident, he expressed some regret over his actions, telling a reporter for Vulture in 2020, quote, I wish it was a cherry, raspberry, or blueberry pie to add some color to it. I was being too nice with apple pie, end quote.
It's brutal.
It's like kind of a low-level act of defiance and trying to make Phyllis look silly. For another example of this, at a similar incident, on February the 9th, 1998, at that year's Brit Awards, Danbert Nobicon, who was a member of the punk rock band / anarchist collective Chumbawamba, We all remember Chumbawamba in the 1990s, dumped a bucket of ice water onto the head of then UK Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott. When asked his motivation, Nobokhan explained to reporters, quote, "It was a metaphor for the underdog pissing on the steps of Downing Street," end quote. As an aside, Chumbawamba, very, very cool band. In terms of like their activism, their politics, the music's not bad either. The Tum Tum album is pretty good. There's a great podcast called Cool People Who Did Cool Stuff, and they did a whole episode on Chumbawamba that I recommend. I'll put a link in the description. For a more serious example, silly from a different cultural lens, serious from the cultural lens in which it occupied. Another example of this, on December the 14th, 2008, Iraqi journalist Muntazar al-Zaidi threw his shoes at U.S. President George W. Bush during a press conference in protest of the American invasion of Iraq, shouting, quote, "This is a farewell kiss from the Iraqi people, you dog," end quote, which is a massive sign of disrespect in Iraqi culture to throw shoes at somebody. And I feel the backlash to Elon Musk being a pathetic gaming liar is another similar episode in using small, even silly actions as an avenue for protest and speaking truth to power. On the one hand, these little acts of activist pranksters resistance paint the target in a ridiculous light. It's funny to think of someone hurling a pair of shoes at George W. Bush or plastering Phyllis Schlafly in crust and pie filling. I find that funny. On the other hand, these actions, in my opinion, send an important message to people in positions of authority that despite all of your power, even to the point of, in some instances, literally controlling who lives and who dies. And again, I refer to the Doge hush of USAID as an example with Musk, that these people in power are not untouchable, even as much as they think that they are. And I think that's an important thing for people in positions of power to remember. That collective action, even from small people, not influential people, not people who hit the leaderboards on PoE2 or Diablo 4, can make a difference in that regard. And like the last couple of years have not been ones for it's a lot of wins for the good guys, if I were to say so. But I think that there's some comfort in taking moral victories like that, if nothing else. That there is some level where you can, mess with these people, express your discontent for what they're doing. And so that's at least something, and it's a small thing, but I think calling Elon Musk a noob and maybe making him a little sadder that day is it's not nothing you're doing. So any thoughts about any of that?
Kate, you want to go first?
Sure. Kev, I feel like we've said a lot of what's to be said. Are there any specific things that you're looking for our thoughts on?
I mean, we're basically wrapping up this part. Are there any
Right.
thoughts on the journey we've taken so far? I mean, this is it. We're not going to do any more on this.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, I mean, we say, yeah, he's an insecure little weenie and he lies about everything and he has to be the king of all the things and win every conversation and win every argument and be the best of the best. That's sad and pathetic, and it's fucked that he's in such a position of power in our country.
Wow. You should clip that and put it at the front of the pod. All right. Hard following that up. But okay, so there's two sides of this. One, it's surprising how much the most influential people in the world demand to have everything and demand to have no disparaging opinions of them whatsoever. And it doesn't occur to them that you can't have everything. And second, one of the reasons I will always consider myself to be a video game noob is because I don't have a comprehensive knowledge of the history or the culture or the terminology. The one thing I do understand about video game culture is if you say you're good at a video game, the internet will come for you. Nobody's good.
Yeah,
Like even in there's once again, there's Let Me Solo Her, there's everybody else. So the idea that you would go in there and espouse I'm good at a video game, one, shows just like a baseline misunderstanding of the culture. And two, you may think that things escalate quickly in terms of video game culture, but maybe one of the reasons who's good and who's not is policed so thoroughly is because when it comes to like the richest oligarchs in the world, maybe this is one of the only things we have left. Maybe this is one of the only things where we do get to say and feel and have influence over what we think.
Because also that's absolutely right. And there's hard evidence to back that up. And it's not creepy or weird to ask for that evidence. Like, oh, you're the best at this, let's see the leaderboard. Oh, you're really good at this video game, let's see your build, that sort of stuff. And there's just hard proof to combat lies there. It's like it's the whole, like I have eyes. I understand how this game works. Even if I'm not the best at it, I do understand how this game works. Kevin, to your point about like the absurd level of intelligence in his build, it's like you wouldn't do that. And like even if you're trying to be like a really smart player in the game. You wouldn't do that if you know how you're playing the game, unless you don't know how to play the game and you're just trying to, again, be the bestest, smartest boy in the world. Like, this is a thing that you can certainly lie about and just stick with your lies no matter how much they don't make sense. But at the end of the day, there's no way to convince people who actually know about this stuff that you're telling the truth or that they are wrong.
Yeah, and they won't abide a phony. And I think that that's one of the things that this exposes is that like he tried to set himself as this. People, yeah, they looked at the receipts based on his data, based on his play style, and they're like, yeah, he's a phony. He's not really what he is. And I think, yeah, I think it's one of those situations where like it's a rare situation where he can't buy his way into this. He can't bully his way into this. If he sucks at, again, it doesn't, I don't think it ultimately matters whether or not he's good at Path of Exile 2, but if he sucks at Path of Exile 2, then very little is going to change that unless he can, get good, I will point out one use case I will say where jumping off your comment, Kate, about the high stats and everything. There's only one use case I can see where you would do ridiculously high stats of that, and it's for the lulz. Like, I did a run on Dark Souls 2 not too long ago, where as a goof, I specifically did it as a joke. I wanted to make what I called a Magimuscular, which is a reference to a D&D podcast I listened to. This one character is called Jonathan the Magimuscular. And the idea is he's a wizard who has like guns. Like he's got like very, very big muscles on his arms. And so what I wanted is I wanted a mage who had high intelligence and high strength. So I leveled up a character in Dark Souls 2 that I think when I got into the DLC had 50 strength and like 65 intelligence, just because I thought that was funny. That he could wield an ultra greatsword with one hand and do the highest level spells with the other. And I just thought that was really funny. But Elon clearly, the amount of sincerity here, or at least the amount of seriousness he has, he's clearly not doing it for a joke. And he really does think this is a good build. And I don't know if he's well prepared for that. I just want to jump in on that, Phil.
Well, this is one of my problems with the Dark Moon Greatsword, but let's not go down that rabbit hole. One of the things I would want to ask, just prompted by the conversation we're having, is to the extent that there is any meritocracy left, is being good at video games one of the last actual meritocracies left?
Huh.
I think software development is also there to a certain degree. It's getting better. It used to be very much a meritocracy, but I'm thinking about like open source software development communities, and there are some that are the better you are at software development and the more you understand the infrastructure of how that software is built, the more influence you have over the direction of that particular open source software framework / ecosystem / community. I deal in some of this stuff sometimes, and in other words, if you want to participate, but you can't throw people power behind that to drive things in the direction you want it to go in, which takes time to get to that point, right? Then you just kind of are along for the ride. I don't know if it really gets to the heart of what you're saying, Phil, because like software development is more of a job, whereas video games are more of a hobby. And if the question might be more like, are there other hobbies that are meritocracies? Is that kind of more what you were asking?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I ever really thought about qualifying how it was, but I did have some idea in my mind. Maybe as far as like a social flag or like a social, just signifier, because if you make a lot of money or like if you graduated from an Ivy League school, both of those things are things you could have inherited or like a friend of a friend got you in. But saying you're good at a video game is something where you just can't not be
Right.
unless you put a lot of time in it.
I mean, there is a bit you raise an interesting point there. Remind me of there's a really great game historian named Carly Kirkurick who did a book on a little bit on arcade culture in the 80s. Really good book called Coin Operated Americans. And one thing she brought up was that even with video games, there is that sort of level of privilege that we would acknowledge in any of those other access points that you talked about there, like getting into a good university or whatever. Like to reach the level where you can be a skilled player does require certain levels of access that many people won't have. For one, you would need the money to have a decent rig or access to the equipment in general, the money to buy a PS5, for example. But also there is the sort of less quantifiable thing like access to time, access to leisure time to be able to develop the skills. And the point that Kirk brings up in her book is that arcades, theoretically, an arcade game is within reach of anybody. If you have a quarter, you can play Galaga, But to get good at a game like Galaga or Miss Pac-Man or Centipede or whatever, you need time and you need money. You have to put lots of quarters in. You need to invest a lot of time to master the patterns of that game. And that is going to be something that certain people over others are going to have more access over others. And so that's the thing with there is a certain level of meritocracy in that the measure of skill is, I think, something that gamers as a culture do gravitate towards. This person's really good at this game. You see, like, again, a Let's Player or a live streamer or a champion player of a game like Quake or PoE or Diablo, people who do challenge runs, like, again, like, like the Dark Souls community is very, very big on challenge runs. Like, I think of Let Me Solo, or we keep going back to that. Let Me Solo, his build is, for example, a good example of a person who has developed a certain challenge into it. But like, there's always certain intangibles, tangible and intangible things that are going to be able to facilitate the environment for that meritocracy to happen. There is a certain level of privilege for, like, Elon could just like invest a ton of money into his rig and just, he's got enough money that he could literally do nothing else but play Path of Exile and maybe get as good as he thinks he will.
I mean, that's the thing. He could absolutely take, if he wants to do this, he could take the time. If anybody could just be like, do not disturb me, I shall be learning and getting great at this game, he can take the time.
Yeah, he could take the Howard Hughes angle and be a weird shut-in, whereas instead of collecting his urine, he could just be sitting there playing video games all day and collecting his urine.
But that's what I think we're getting back to, is like, but he doesn't actually care about video games. He doesn't actually like video games. He just wants to be the best. He wants to be the cool guy in the room. He wants to beat everybody else. He wants to be able to show everybody else up in every conversation.
Yeah, I think that's also, I think you hit there. It doesn't matter. He just wants to win. He wants to be the winner.
I am a sewer. And I like sewing, I like quilting. If quilting was the big hobby that everybody had online, which is also something of a meritocracy, I guess. I mean, you can do like really elaborate, cool, interesting quilts that take hours and hours and hours and take a lot of skill that you have to master over time. But you could also do basic ones. Anyway, if quilting was the big thing, he would say that he was the best quilter in the world. And I throw that out there as like, he just wants to be the best. He just wants to, whatever's popular, whatever people are talking about that he can't be a part of, he wants to not just be a part of it, but be the best.
I think you make a good point there. And it's like it's again, going back to that anecdote from Isaacson's biography of Elon Musk, that he threw a bunch of money into the pot on a poker game, kept losing. And then when he won the whole pot, he left. He was there for, now I've conquered poker. This is another thing that I can say that I'm the best at. And I think that's ultimately what it is. And all this, I think that if there was a thesis statement to any of this, it all points back to ego, and Elon's ego is part of all of this thing. He needs people to know that he's the best, and he cannot abide by people who are challenging him. And I think you also make a good point. It's one of the few places where you can challenge him on this, where you can actually cause him to, in this case, eventually break down. And even when he broke down, he had to try to turn it into a win. It's like, yeah, everyone's a fake gamer except for me. And fine, I boost my account, but you have to boost your account if you want to stay there. And you see, I have to be the best there. And like, then he turns it, well, it's a good thing that I'm doing all of this thing. Like, it's ego. That's ultimately all it is. It's ego. It's vanity. He needs this. And at the same point, that again shows that, like, money cannot buy happiness, and just a very, very sad person, a very, very sad person would do this.
Well, I think the thing is also, just not to just totally be one-sided on this. If I got the impression that Elon Musk actually really liked video games and did play them for his enjoyment and wanted to be a part of a community, but just wasn't as good as he wanted to be, and he was embarrassed by it, and that was what was motivating all of the lies and absurdity, I wouldn't say that's okay, but I guess I could kind of understand why a person might lie like that. But it's like, well, they really want to be good at the video games that they really like doing. I just don't get the impression he does this. I don't think I get the impression. That's why I threw out the quilting example. It's like, it could have been anything. I don't think he cares about this stuff.
To quote a line that has lived rent free in my head for a long time by Alexis de Tocqueville, who wrote the book Democracy in America from the 1800s. He had a term called the joyless pursuit of joy. And I see that a little bit here. All right. So I think we've talked enough about Elon Musk.
I think that's a good clip to end on, Kev.
Yeah.
Can I throw out a couple of positivity notes?
Sure.
Unlike a lot of the episodes in this podcast, at least we're talking about oligarchs who understand how video games work and would not ascribe a moral panic to them. Although it is entirely possible he is a gun runner like Leland Yee behind the scenes. I guess we'll never know. So there's that angle. Maybe that's one positive.
I'm not even going to open up the can of worms about how, like, the way that, because I've talked about it before on the show, but like the weird ways that conservatism's relationship with video games. Like, it went from, the moralizing of guys like, and I'm using small c conservatism for that. Like, people like Leland Yee, who was a Democrat, talking about moral crusades. Joe Lieberman, Democrat too. Hillary Clinton, but like people like Sam Brownback and guys like Jack Thompson and Dave Grossman. We went from that we've gone from in conservatism, video games as this sort of bogeyman, to now video games for some being like a proxy for this is why gun violence isn't that bad in the United States. It has to be some sort of corruption. That now we also have this other segment of conservatism of the far right variety where it's like, there are people who are coming up from gaming meme culture who have hijacked a lot of the discourse about things. And that's also like the larger thing that Elon is touching towards, because we could talk about like the kinds of discourses that came out of Gamergate. He's tapping into that a little bit with that too. And this is what we talked about when we did our series on the Real Game Awards a little bit too, because it's clearly like a far right kind of conservatism in that too, the anti-woke movement relative to video games, because these are people who assert that they are video gamers who are now coming at this from the angle of gaming, as opposed to the people like the Jack Thompsons of the world coming to the place where they don't have any context or experience with gaming and are kind of bashing together a little bit. So I think this is a great note on and great conversation. And so that will do it for today's episode of Scandalous Games. If you like what we're doing and want to help the show, subscribe or follow us wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a rating. If you want to learn more, check out our website, scandalousgamespodcast.wordpress.com, where I publish the show notes and the sources for every episode. Our theme music is Occam Seek Me by Seek Knowledge via the Free Music Archive, used under a CC BY NC SA 3.0 US license. If you have a question, comment, or idea for a topic for a future episode, email us at scandalousgamespodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, I'm Kevin Impellizeri.
I'm Phil.
I'm Kate.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next Scandal. Subscribe to Fat Roll Gaming on YouTube and listen to So We Were Talking About Beast Wars wherever you get your podcasts.